Welcome to a special episode of the Geek Source Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Sir Cal, here with now my 5th attempt at doing this episode. Yeah. Let's get into it. Okay. So, if you've been paying attention to my podcast, we are one of the 2 loyal followers I have, you may have noticed that on the audio end of things, I didn't have an episode. And I didn't have a Film Fridays. And if you're following me on YouTube, you may have noticed I didn't have a Tech Tuesdays or a Film Fridays. Pretty much took a week off. And that's just due to the fact that on the YouTube end of things, the video end of Tech Tuesdays I had some issues with. So that will be up either today or tomorrow, depending on when I get it up. This looks like this is going to be going up on Tuesday, but how long it's taking me to do this episode. The audio did go up. And so, it is like, I do have an episode, it's just, I gotta fix it. And then, Friday, the reason why there was no Film Fridays was due to the fact that on Thursday, which is the day I typically record with Film Fridays, I wasn't feeling that well, and I wanted to go see Captain Marvel, so I wanted to, rest rather than, it kind of takes a while to, get my green screen set up. I know this background isn't real. Surprising, right? So I had been not feeling well, wanted to get some rest, and so that way I would be feeling better by the time I went to go see the movie, because it was a birthday present, actually. March 8th was actually my birthday day, Captain Marvel was released, so yay. I wanted to see that, so that's the reasons. So that's why I wanted to do this special episode, because, I wanted something here, a little bit extra, since, YouTube especially has been lacking. Now, let's just get into the episode and try to make it quick so I can make it through and so my computer's battery doesn't die, because it's pretty much at 20% now. Hopefully it makes it. Captain Marvel, of course, released this weekend. Everyone's favorite movie released. And after a dismal performance at the Rotten Tomatoes Want to See poll that was totally not rigged, as you may have seen me report last week, it only had 27% of people wanting to see this film, and so, of course, it bombed at the box office. The film failed spectacularly. It is a huge failure for the MCU. They are scrambling to change course now. It has potentially been rumored that Brie Larson's Captain Marvel may be edited out of Avengers Endgame, and that there'll be a new cut of the film. Alita Battle Angel soared to new heights at the box office. And yeah, that's not what happened. Not at all. This movie did really, really, really well. And here we have a live look at the people who were cheering on the boycott. Oh. Anyways, Captain Marvel, opened to $155 million approximately at the domestic box office. Internationally, it opened to around $300 million for a combined total of $455 million globally. I think it's a hit. Not only did the film open with a successful opening weekend, but it also was overall well received by critics and audiences. Even the Rotten Tomatoes, as of recording this, the audience score, despite its, early really negative opinions, has grown to 58%. So there's that. It is recovering. It's at around 80% on the critics score. 75% of Google users give it a thumbs up. It's got a 7 out of 10 on Internet Movie Database, and on the Stardust social media app, which is an app where you can submit 30-second mini reviews of your movies that you see. It has around between 75 to 80% positive reaction. And finally, the Cinema Score, which Cinema Score is, I believe, the only place where they actually verify if you saw the film or not, gave this film an A. So, yeah, overall, people like this film. It's, I'll talk about what I thought of the film here in a bit. But before I wanted to get into it, I actually wanted to discuss the Rotten Tomatoes situation a bit more. Because on my last video, I got a comment that told me, quote, "Oh dear, don't tell me you actually believe these people."
Karen, you are so stupid.
Yeah. Okay, so, and so, and because it's like the only comment I got, I did have a small discussion with this, and there were some points made, and so I wanted to talk about it a bit more, because maybe I was wrong. Maybe the story, maybe the media lied, and there wasn't really trolls, and yeah, so I wanted to talk about it. But the first thing was, the comment, and I've read this a couple times now. If you've followed the story about the Rotten Tomatoes review situation, you've seen some seen some claims about reports on the story. There were, of course, the reports that, see, people are just fed up with movies pushing an SJW feminist agenda, blah. And then, of course, there were the others that just said flat up that, you were lying about it, because, and this comment and other comments and other places I've read stated that, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't actually allow you to rate and review the films before release. And so the media was just making up a controversy to help promote the movie. So that's what I wanted to research. I wanted to do some more research because, again, maybe I was wrong. And if I was wrong, I wanted to recant and state that here in this special episode before I got to the film's review. Now, if I was right, then, well, we'll see. Now, off the bat, that claim is wrong. Okay, like it or not, the want to see score is still a rating of the film. It's a rating of the expectation of who wants to see it. So it's not wrong to say, and I said this, it's not wrong to say that the film's rating dropped. And it is also not wrong, and I wish I had done a little bit more research into the Rotten Tomatoes site. I honestly have never cared for Rotten Tomatoes that much. And so I incorrectly stated in my reply to this comment that yes, I was wrong, and that it wasn't reviews that were left, but comments, but still the same thing. But actually, no. Rotten Tomatoes actually considered the comments you leave with your review. You could, on the front page where you could view a film's page and then rate, want to see, don't want to see, directly below that was a box where you could, in Rotten Tomatoes' own words, add a review. And then if you scroll down on the page, you could click View All Audience Reviews. So the media isn't lying to say that the reviews were bad. Now, we can have a discussion about whether or not the reviews were trolls, the ratings and reviews were trolls, and we'll get into that. So, but off the bat, it is actually wrong to say, and I've heard this several times in videos and articles and comments, in replies to articles, I should say, that, oh, you're lying, you're making stuff up. And yet, honestly, I personally believe that people who say that, oh, you can't leave a review before a film's release, they haven't actually been to Rotten Tomatoes' site, because Rotten Tomatoes themselves considered the comments left on the want to see score reviews. Okay. Now, was the film trolled? I still think yes, because, again, one of the things I said in my reply was that, I don't like this score. I'm glad that it's gone or that it's been altered, because it's a poor score anyways, because people who genuinely are not interested in a film don't take time out of their day to go look up its page on Rotten Tomatoes and say so. They're not interested in the film. They don't care. It doesn't occupy their minds. Okay? So there are people out there that claim that this score was indicative, and of course, if the box office was indicative enough that they were wrong, they claim that it was indicative that people are just fed up with these SJW politics, being infected into these movies, and that the score was reflective of that people are genuinely just not going to go see this movie. They were obviously wrong. But also, just you can tell by the history that, if we're going by the theory that a film's want-to-see score is indicative of what it's going to do, of its success or failure, then, then you kind of have an issue here. Because, I decided to look up some films that have failed on their opening weekend, and overall, just they failed in general, and I decided to look up some films, and so I looked up a select few, and the first one that I looked up was King Arthur: Legend of the Sword. This film I actually saw, I kind of rather liked, so it's kind of sad that it bombed, but it did. I can't help it. This film was released on May 12th, and by May 9th, only three days before its release, had a 97% want-to-see score. And yet, it barely exceeded $140 million on a budget of $175 million. A huge loss for the studio. This film tanked. But if you believe in the theory that, this score, if the score was actually indicative of what the film was going to do, it should have been a huge success. 97% of people wanted to see it, right? Okay, no. And then there was that same year, the Mummy Remake. It was released on June 9th. By June 7th, it had a 96% want-to-see score on Rotten Tomatoes. And it, again, failed. It had a budget of $125 million and only made just over $400 million. Now, that doesn't sound too bad at first, but when you look at these, these event film blockbusters that this film was being marketed as, we don't know the actual marketing budget. The marketing budget is separate from the film's budget, and typically a safe, low estimate is twice the film's normal budget, is what a marketing budget is. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 times. This film is lucky if it broke even, okay? And it was such a failure that it was supposed to be the kickoff to a new connected universe that would be this connected universe of these classic monsters. Think the Mummy, Dracula, the Invisible Man, etc., etc. And it did so poorly, it killed that franchise off before it even got off the ground. But it should have done well. It had a 96% want to see rate, right? Right? Wrong, apparently. And of course, you may have noticed that I'm looking at films that are more not so recent, because these are 2017 was a year that I went to see the movies a lot more. 2018, not so much. I can count on with one hand how many films I saw in 2018. Whereas 2017, even if I was going to see more films, and so I was therefore more aware of what films were coming out. I was paying attention to the numbers and all that. So these films are more in my mind than that. But I decided, well, maybe people have just become more interactive with the Rotten Tomatoes site, and maybe people have become more interactive with the want to see score, and maybe a box office failure would show that in late 2018. So I looked up a more recent film, and I looked at Nutcracker in the Four Realms. This film was released on November 2nd, 2018. The day before, on November 1st, had a 92% want-to-see rate, and it also failed. It only made $173 million on a budget of $120 million. So again, more than likely a financial loss for the studio. And again, this film should have honestly done well. It was a take on a classic entity, the Nutcracker, and it was by Disney. So, Disney. People go and see Disney movies, right? Right? And so there's that. Even the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot that a lot of people have compared Captain Marvel's marketing to, that they want to compare this controversy to, and say that Captain Marvel is another Ghostbusters 2016. Even the Ghostbusters 2016, despite the controversy behind that film, the day before its release still had an 89% want to see score. So, not even Ghostbusters could have the same problem. It didn't have the same issue that Captain Marvel had. It didn't drop so hard. So, yeah, that right there blows any kind of theory that, the want-to-see score is an accurate representation of what people actually want to see. So I'm glad that they did away with the percentage on it, because it's not a good, it's not indicative of a film's success or failure. As these films show, as Captain Marvel itself shows, So let's look at Captain Marvel itself, and let's look into, was this film trolled or not? And so we'll go back all the way to February 12th. This was when Fox News ran the article that ran the interview about where Brie Larson did that interview where she called for more diversity in the press pool, and this started the whole, or at least people claim, is from what I can tell, this is what people point to as evidence that, Brie Larson hates white men. That's what started that false narrative. Okay, yeah, she hates white men so much, she's willing to star along 3/5 white men in the lead cast. Jude Law, Ben Mendelsohn, Clark Gregg, and even one of the film's own co-directors is also a white man, Ryan Fleck, I think was his name. But yeah, she hates white men so much. So much. Yeah. Okay. So there's that. There was this started February 12th was when that article ran, when when this whole Brie Larson hates white men thing started the initial negative response. So, and you see that. I have screenshots here that show all these negative reviews from around February 12th to February 14th. But notice how the majority of them are all blank profile images. Just a little suspicious, 2-3 pages worth of all these negative reviews, and like 2 or 3 or 4 of them have actual profile images. That's at least suggestive that these profiles are new accounts created just to bring the score down. Not absolute proof, but it's still a little suspicious. And of course, I have to rely on screenshots here because of the fact that, Wayback Machine. This is what I've been using for all these different, like, the movie reviews. All these different movies and their past scores, their want-to-see scores, even Captain Marvel's page. I've been using the Wayback Machine. It has been such a useful tool in research here. But unfortunately, the one thing they didn't do is they didn't archive the comments pages. Unfortunately, that for Captain Marvel, because it just wasn't a thing until after it became a huge controversy. And so, yeah. And then and so you see this. There's this influx of negative reviews and ratings, and you see that between February 11th to February 18th, the film's score drops from 90% to 85%. So yeah, there's that. And of course the news hits that there's review trolling, review bombing, and you can, I guess, make the claim that these are genuine people just expressing their opinions. I still think it's a little suspicious, but it's in the following week where I think it's just definitive proof that this movie was trolled. Because between February 18th to February 25th, the score goes from 85% to 32%. Goes from a little over 4,000 ratings on February 18th to 36,000, over 36,000 ratings on February 25th. So in a week's time, over 32,000 reviews have hit the page. It has dropped over 50%, and it finally drops to, I think, 27% before Rotten Tomatoes finally disabled the ratings for this, the want-to-see ratings and the audience reviews. And of course, there was a whole side of the internet that wanted to express their genuine opinion and cried, free speech was being infringed. Rotten Tomatoes took away the ability for us to, took away our First Amendment right. Every time I see someone say something like that, when people clearly abuse a site in this case, or break a site's terms of service, and then, when they're then punished or have the ability to do what they're doing taken away in this case, and then they cry about their First Amendment rights being taken away, all I can think of is because the First Amendment doesn't protect you from, consequences of your free speech. And if you're breaking a site's terms of service, they have every reason to ban you. And in this case, you're abusing a site's rating system. They're going to, do something to fix it. And in this case, they just disabled the feature entirely. So yeah, needless to say, I don't have too high opinion of most of these people. And yeah, so there's that. Getting back to my main point, between February 18th and February 25th, there's this huge influx of negative ratings. But what really stands out to me is on March 5th, I decided to actually scroll through all of the reviews that were left from February 25th to February 18th. Again, the February 25th was the first page, and I scrolled through, I think, like 14 pages before I got to the end of this period. So within that week, like 14 pages, and what I found was that, there were a total of 18 pages of reviews left up. I think if you go on the Wayback Machine, you can see that on February 26th, morning of, there was 20 pages left. So Rotten Tomatoes did remove 2 pages of reviews. But nonetheless, I counted them all, and what I found was really suspicious, and to me shows, I think, proves that this site was trolled, because, a mere 55 reviews in this entire week against the film, while 225 reviews were for the film. And even if you have that margin of error of 2 full pages being removed, you add that in, there's only 20 reviews per page, so you add 40 reviews into the negative, it's still a 2-to-1 ratio of positive to negative. So you definitely, and we had seen the week before, between February 11th to February 18th, the reviews correlated with the ratings. A lot of negative ratings, a lot of negative reviews. So what is up here with this week? Do you think there'd be a correlation? There's not. The score would have dropped for certain from its initial 85%, maybe to around 70 or 65%, but not 27%. To me, that just makes the case that I think it was definitively trolled, because, I think it was hit by a bot attack, honestly. I think someone, or a lot of people, just wanted to really bring that film's score down, so they set something up, and, they did something that just flooded the negative rating on that film. Obviously, they're not taking the time to write reviews, so these aren't necessarily real people, and there's that. And so it wouldn't surprise me if, in the coming weeks or months, we hear from Rotten Tomatoes that actually the reason why they disabled the reviews for audiences before a film gets released is not just because, people were leaving the wrong opinion, but because they were just getting hit by something they couldn't handle as a site, and so they just took the function away as a quick fix, and probably final fix. again, there's still a small part of me that's still a tiny bit skeptical that maybe, just maybe, these were all genuine ratings. But, I really think that, it is just indicative that something was awry. That the fact that, the score in a week's time fell so hard, and even other controversial films that had a lot of negative press going into it, and a lot of people against the film, like Ghostbusters, didn't have this hard of a fall. And then, of course, the fact that the want-to-see score is just not indicative of a film's success or failure, you're not going to be able to convince me that this wasn't trolled. Especially since, the film kind of went on and became uber successful. I mean, like, the film could drop off the face of the earth and just completely fail in its coming weeks, but people obviously still wanted to see it. So, yeah, there's that. And again, like I said, I looked into this, wanted to share this because I wanted to, either prove the case that, yes, review trolling definitely happened, or recant and say I was wrong because I don't want to be those people that just review, just spout off, the news without doing any research into it. I reported it the week, last week or week before last week. I reported that it was being trolled because I had reason to believe. I had seen the negative reviews and I had seen people who were angry at the film. And so it seemed like trolling to me. And I think that this definitely makes the case that, yeah, it kind of was. Now, on to my review, because we've spent so much time here now. What did I think of the film? Was it good? Was it bad? Now, what do I think of it? I thought it was good. I think that that's actually a good rating. I think 7, 8 out of 10 is where I'd put the film. It's what I expected of it. It's a good, fun, action origin story for Captain Marvel. It isn't groundbreaking or anything. It isn't the next Infinity War. It's not better than Infinity War, but it's up there with, some of Marvel's, other origin story films like Ant-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange. It's on par with those films. And it has some standout moments. It has standout characters. Brie Larson, I think, does an overall good job as Captain Marvel. I really liked her character and how she played it. Slight spoiler alert, she has amnesia, and I liked how she didn't play it off as this completely shocked person. John Campea pointed this out in his spoiler-free review that a lot of people, when they have amnesia or they're new to Earth, when they see things, they overreact to everything. Whereas actually, I think her reaction to someone having not been able to remember most of their life is rather realistic. She's skeptical of things. She is kind of standoffish at times. Some people criticize that as wooden. I can see it in a few scenes, but overall, I think she's really well. I think she plays that part well, especially when she's with Sam Jackson. I think those two have chemistry. They make the film for me, and I think it's worth the price of admission just for them. The cat, Goose, is a scene stealer by far. Just as everyone said, yes, it steals the show. And Ben Mendelsohn, whether he's in human form or alien Skrull form, he makes his character really shine, and he's another standout performance. And yeah, so overall, I really liked it. Again, it's not groundbreaking. I don't think you should go into it expecting it to, because I don't think any of the marketing has made it out to be. Of course, some people that like it are going to overhype it, and of course, people that hate it are going to make it out to be the worst film ever. It's neither. It's really good. It's really fun. I understand if you don't like it. I understand if you really like it, but for me, it's a good time. I enjoyed it. It was worth seeing. I want to go see it again, actually. And yeah, that's that. Overall, I liked it. I might make a spoiler review, but overall, my opinion on this film is that it was a really, really good time, and I am excited for Endgame because, yeah, I'm excited to see this character interact with the rest of the Avengers, and overall, I'm excited. I am so excited for Endgame. This film definitely raised the bar for my hype levels. And I really, really liked this film. And I think you should go see it if you haven't already. And yeah, that does leave the episode off. Again, this has been a special episode, and of course, if you haven't noticed, I am running a bit of an experiment. I'm trying to bring more clicks to my page, so this film is one of two. You either clicked on one that is rather negative and, as, the sky is falling thumbnail and, Captain Marvel is doomed the MCU, or, you're on the positive, Captain Marvel crushes the box office with money raining down, one of those two. I'm just trying to get the best of both worlds clickbait and bring people to my channel. Whichever one does better will be the one that I keep. I will see you next time.